So far in this series, we've made a family tree, filled out what we know with personal lore, and then we looked at some examples of vital records. Today, we're going to do a first search for records to answer some of our questions. Welcome, I'm Justin Cassio, and this is How to Genealogy, Video 4, Starting to Search. Family search is a good place to do a first search if your subject has ever lived in the United States. They have a lot of digitized records on Family Search. What that means is these are images of original vital records, and a lot of them are indexed. And what that means is that volunteers have typed in the most important information on the record, the names, the dates, the places, so that you can search for the record and find the digitized image. So I picked an open issue from my list here that I think I can answer with some of these vital records that we'll find in this search on Family Search. I'm going to work with Leoluca's sisters today. Maria and Giovanna are my great-great-aunts. They are two of the three sisters who emigrated with Leoluca, my great-grandfather, and their mother, Angelina Grisafi. For some reason, Leoluca's son, my great-uncle Joseph Cassio, he didn't mention these two sisters when he was telling my sister the story of their emigration. And so I wondered what happened to them, if there was some reason why they were left out of the story. I'm going to look for Maria Cassio first. If you're going to look for someone, you have to know some things about them so that you'll know when you found them. So what do we know about Maria? Maria is the older girl standing on the right in this photo with her mother, and that's her younger sister, Giovanna. Maria was 12 in this picture when she emigrated late in 1901, which means that she was born around 1889. And what I can expect to find from Maria when I do this search are census records where she's living with her mother and her siblings, maybe a marriage record, and if she hasn't married and changed her name, I might find a record of her death when I do this search. But Maria Cassio is a common name, so I'm going to have to narrow it down to find the vital records that are definitely hers and not somebody else with the same name. If you haven't already, create a free account on the Family Search website. I'm using a 10-year spread here for her age because sometimes ages float around a little bit as people get older. But if I'm finding that I'm getting too many results from this strategy, I can narrow it down when I do another search. So you can see that in these search results, some of them are for a wife in a household. And so I'm going to ignore all of those because unless she married a man named Cassio, Maria is going to have changed her name. As for these emigration records, she might have traveled home and back again to New York City, but that's not likely, so I'm going to skip those for now too. Looking over this list of search results, I'm looking for clear matches to what I already know about Maria Cassio. I'm looking for Maria's known family members. You'll remember from the last video that the names of someone's close kin are a part of what uniquely identify a person. My Maria's mother is named Angelina, and I know that she has siblings who are called Rose and John and Leoluca or Louis, and so that's going to be a big part of how I identify her with certainty. When you see a record that might be a match for your subject, open it. Let's do some document analysis. What kind of record is this? What is the date that it was created? What event does it record? Is someone on this record likely to be my subject? What does this record say about them? And does the information on the record match or fit what I already know about my subject? Not every record matching your subject in the Family Search database is going to come up in your first search. Sometimes there are too many matches, and the ones that you really want are buried pages down in the search results. And sometimes the index information doesn't match what's on the record image. Sometimes people's ages or their names get reported wrong, or it gets mangled when the record's created. There are a lot of reasons why a record might be hiding in plain view instead of showing up in your search result. A few ways around this are to broaden the search, narrow the search, use nicknames, use deliberate misspellings and wildcards, and search for other family members. If you're not getting enough hits, you can widen the net, broaden the search for the name, year of birth, place of residence, and then when you search again, take out the first name and see if any of the results are close enough to check. Try looking for them in the United States instead of New York. Take out the birth information entirely and try that. If you get too many results, you can narrow some of the parameters to what you know already about the subject, such as where they lived or the year that they were born. I've done dozens of searches just on this one family to find their records. I was probably searching for Angelina when I found these census records that show her living with her children. We can see from these that Maria was called Mary Cassio, and her sister Giovanna was called Genevieve or Jenny. I can try searching for Maria again as Mary Cassio, a name that I know she used, and when I look for her sister, I can try all these variations. I can also look for common misspellings. For the first search, I'm going to spell it correctly, but then I might try the search with these other spellings, either from intuition or from what I've seen in other records as a misspelling of my subject's name. Use wildcards in their names. For example, you can look for a first name, last initial with a wildcard, and then all the other information that you know has to be a match, like the place of birth and where they live. Even if the last name gets really mangled in transcription, they'll come up in a search like this. In the earliest census record that I've found for the family, this New York State Census from 1905, Angelina is called Angelo in the transcription, and she's listed as the father instead of the mother. The children listed here are exactly who I'm looking for. Their ages are right, they match their ages in the immigration records. This is definitely my family. And in 1910, she lives with her mother and siblings and a Grazafi cousin. Mary's 20 years old and works in a cigarette factory with two of her younger sisters. And here she is in the 1920 census, now age 27. Like I said, people's ages float a little. But she's living with her mother, her younger siblings, two Grazafi cousins now. And note that Mary no longer works. Her sisters are still at that cigarette factory, though. And we can confirm that Giovanna is Genevieve, is Jenny. She shows up in the same birth order in every census between Mary and Rose. None of these search results are from Mary in the 1930 census. I'll look for her brother, John, and see if I can find Mary living with him. And if I can find Angela and the rest of Mary's unmarried siblings in 1930, and Mary's with them, then I'll look for her in the 1940 census. And when I find the first census where she's not with them, I will have found the 10-year interval in which she's left her family of origin. And then I can pursue the two most common reasons for her to do that, which is to get married or die. And I can look at just those two kinds of records made in New York City between those two dates. Mary is not living with her brother here, although here is her mother, and I think this is one of her married sisters, Jenny. I'm going to follow up on that. So Mary might have married and moved out, or she might have died since 1920. This isn't her. Her parents don't match, and this woman is too young. And here she is. She's died. There's no image here, but I know another website we can look for her death certificate on, so I'm going to write all this down and copy the citation into my notes. I'm going to keep looking through the results of this search for more vital records that might match my subject. For each record, I'll ask the same questions. If I determine that it's probably a record of my subject and not somebody else with the same name or similar details, I'll take notes. I told you I know another website where we can see Mary's death record, so let's go do that. I'm going to start by using the certificate number from the indexed record on Family Search. But that's not a match. The name's wrong. So let's try it another way. We'll search on her name, the borough, and the year of her death. And that worked. You can see her parents' names are a match, and there's so much information here. Her date of birth, where she last lived, how she died, where she's buried. Much more information than was indexed for Family Search. So that's one of the two sisters that I wondered about. What about Giovanna or Jenny? There are a few of the census records that I've already seen for this family, but the rest of these are not matches. I'll try it as Giovanna, and I'm getting similar results, nothing new on her. So I can do the same thing that I did with Maria. In 1920, they live with their mother, but in 1930, their mother lives with their youngest brother, John. So Jenny has either died or married between 1920 and 1930. Remember how in the 1930 census there was this other family living at the same address with John Cassio and his family, and the wife of the household is named Jenny. and her age is a pretty close match. So, but I'm not having any luck searching for her as Jenny Cassio. So maybe I'll find something under John Calagna that will tell me more about his wife. And here she is. This is her death record. Her parents' names are a match. I can do another search and try to find their marriage record, but between the 1930 census and this death record, I have enough evidence to say that Jenny Cassio married John Calagna, and in 1930 they were living as neighbors to her married brother John and their mother. I looked for Jenny's death record on the New York City Doris website, but I wasn't able to find her using either method that worked for Mary. This death record proves that Jenny Calagna is Giovanna Cassio. They're the same person. I have one more place to search that I'll show you today. The German Genealogy group hosts this database of New York City marriages that you can search. I'm going to look for Jenny's marriage here. And here she is, marrying John Calagna in 1925 in the Bronx. I'll write this information down and use it to search Doris. This is a different database from the one that Family Search uses. You can tell because if you go into Family Search and look for a marriage in New York City for John Calagna in 1925, it doesn't come up, even though I spelled it the same way that it appears on the German Genealogy Group website. They're supposed to be covering the same set of records, but maybe one was better indexed than the other. It's really hard to say, but it's a good idea to have more than one website on which to look for records if you can. And here's their marriage record on Doris. Look, isn't this great? The original record. That's their actual signatures. And it tells me where they each lived. It looks like Jenny was living with her brother and mother at the same address where they're all living in 1930, and they maybe just moved to another apartment in the same building when they got married. I'll look this up on Google Maps to see if I can find out more. Possibly they're in the same apartment, just counted as two families. If they were considered one household, Jenny and her husband would be listed in the census by their relationship to John Cassio, the head of the household, but they're not. John Calagna is his own head of household. Well, now I'm curious. Let's go see if this house is on Zillow. Look, look, look. Pelham Bay neighborhood in the Bronx. This is a nice neighborhood. Zillow tells us that the house was built in 1910 and is a 3-family home. It's had a few improvements, but you can still get a sense of what the house must have looked like when it was new. There are a few other sites that I search depending on what I'm looking for, but Family Search is usually the first place that I go when I'm just starting to search for somebody who lived in the United States. There are other websites that I use. Doris, the German Genealogy Group, Bride Search. Those are of course only useful if your subjects are in the 5 boroughs of New York. Zillow and Google Maps, those are good for a lot of places. Every family that you research is going to be a different challenge, and one part of it is to find out where the record collections are that will complement what you can find on the big sites like Family Search or Ancestry. Not every search is going to be fruitful. That is normal. In the next How to Genealogy video, I'll spend more time on the notes that I gather and how I use them to make cases, create biographies for my subjects, and grow my family tree. I hope you found this video useful. Please come back to this YouTube channel for more How to Genealogy videos, and to support this work and get early access to the videos, you can join me on Patreon, where I'm Mafia Genealogy.